Well, we've always said that we would like to see restrictions eased as soon as possible in the economy to operate as close as possible as normal in a way that is COVID safe as soon as possible. So the National Cabinet is considering next steps and opportunities today. I'm not going to obviously preempt the outcomes of that meeting. But of course, I mean, we want to see the economy opened up as far as it can be as soon as possible in a way that is COVID safe.
Yep, OK. Well, the RBA governor said this yesterday, that it would be a mistake to end JobKeeper too early. Do you agree with him?
Well, I mean, he was asked a hypothetical question, and obviously, in terms of where we are here today, the economic outlook today is better than what it was 2 months ago when we were experiencing infection growth rates of 20% on a daily basis, and we are working to ensure that the economic outlook is even better in 2 months from now. Now we're 7 weeks in to a 6-month program. We said that we would review the JobKeeper program in June, halfway through. That is what we'll be doing. We'll continue, of course, to assess and to monitor the way the economy picks up again and what the economic outlook is moving forward, and we'll make judgments accordingly. But let me just make this point, though. The best way to ensure that businesses can get back into business when they've been affected and people back into work is to continue to ease those restrictions in the economy as soon as possible in a way that is COVID safe. And that is, of course, that should be the priority. The priority should be to get the economy going again to its fullest potential so that we can ensure that as many jobs as possible return and we can start growing jobs again.
When you say as soon as possible, what time frame is that? 2 weeks? Should the next round be brought forward?
Well, look, we'd said a few weeks ago, we said that we would like the economy to be back to as close as normal as possible by late June, early July. We are in a better position even than we thought we would be a few weeks ago. So, we want to continue. I mean, that is the job of the National Cabinet this morning, based on the advice from our Chief Health and Chief Medical Officers from around Australia to make those judgments on what can be done. But the intention ought to be to open up the economy as fast as possible in a way that is COVID safe, so that jobs can come back, new jobs can be created, and business can have the confidence to invest again in their future success and profitability and hire more Australians.
Well, Peter Dutton said this morning that the government should be flexible on JobKeeper extension. Is that a word you'd use?
Well, we've been flexible all the way through, but the important point is that we shouldn't be preempting decisions in relation to matters where we don't have the necessary information in front of us. We can all speculate about what the situation will be, at the end of September. But what I would put to you is if you look at the way things have changed for the better since the end of March, at the end of March, when the JobKeeper program was costed initially, we were in a very different economic and public health context. We had infection rates of more than 20% a day. We were planning for the worst. We were uncertain as to how long and how deep this crisis would go. 2 months on, and essentially there are very low numbers of new infections. Most of them overseas acquired and properly managed through quarantine. Very low numbers of active cases, and so the context now is different. The economic outlook is much better. And obviously we are working to ensure that the economic outlook continues to improve, and we'll make judgments at the appropriate time. We're not going to preempt them. We're going to continue to go through an orderly process, and we're going to continue to do what we said we would do, which is to review the program halfway through.
Let's say you do extend it beyond September. Realistically, how much more time could you give it?
Well, I'm just not going to speculate. I mean, I know you're inviting me to speculate on hypotheticals, but we've made judgments so far about what is necessary to support the economy, to support business, to support jobs, and to support those Australians who've lost their job. We will make judgments moving forward at the right time when we have the necessary information in front of us.
OK, well, obviously it would be industry dependent, and I'm sure tourism would be front of mind and taking your priority. But how do you decide? What's the line for how you decide who gets to keep JobKeeper and who doesn't?
Well, that is why we'll have a review which will assess where the economy is at, where individual sectors in the economy are at, what is happening in terms of jobs returning. new jobs being created, and when we have the appropriate information in front of us, we'll be in a position to make judgments, as we have in the past.
Would you taper it off?
Well, again, I mean, you're asking me to speculate in relation to a review of a scheme that has not yet happened.
But surely you must have an idea.
Decisions. Well, and we do have an idea, and we'll make the appropriate decisions at the appropriate time after a proper assessment has taken place, and after we have a better sense of what the economic outlook is going to be from September onwards.
Okay. What happens if people can't pay their bank loans come September?
Well, I mean, again, you're assuming that the situation in September is going to be worse, not better. And what I'm saying to you is, as I speak to you here today, the economic outlook is significantly better today than what it was 2 months ago. And we're working to ensure that the economic outlook is better again 2 months from now. And so, clearly we do need to move off this temporary support. JobKeeper and the Enhanced Job Seeker program were temporary support measures. They're very expensive. And, obviously we do want to move off these temporary support measures back into the economy as normal, and back with businesses selling their products and services and making profits and hiring Australians and paying those Australians their wages. I mean, that is where we need to get back to. But we will assess the situation as we move forward. We will assess the economic outlook, including on a sector-by-sector basis. And adjustments will be made even as appropriate, and we'll make relevant decisions at the right time.
Minister, I know this, just a couple of quick ones. I know it's not your portfolio, but the Foreign Minister, as you probably just heard, joined the UK, US and Canada in voicing its concern for China approving its security laws against or in Hong Kong overnight. What's your thoughts on that?
Well, as a government, we are very concerned about what's happening. I mean, clearly this is eroding the freedoms of people in Hong Kong. It is eroding the autonomy of Hong Kong, for Hong Kong, and indeed it is undermining the one country, two systems approach, which was very much enshrined in a legally binding joint declaration between the United Kingdom and China some years ago, registered with through the United Nations. So, we are concerned, and we would like to see China reconsider.
And a last one here. The Prime Minister had always said that he didn't support a decision made by Victoria on its involvement with the Belt and Road Initiative, but there's a report today in The Australian, as a matter of fact, that suggests it was approved by some members of DFAT, some senior members of DFAT at the time. Is that correct?
No, that's not correct. And I mean, even if you look at the detail of the story that's published there today, it relies on Victorian government notes to justify Victorian government actions. So, I mean, I would treat that with a grain of salt. And in any event, I mean, DFAT has made clear they were not consulted about the agreement that was signed. I mean, they were essentially informed on the day the agreement was signed about what was signed. There is a broad consensus at the national level, and the national government is responsible for foreign affairs. There's a broad consensus at the national level in a non-partisan fashion that what Victoria is doing is not in the national interest, and no amount of attempts to come up with excuses are not going to hide the fact that the Andrews government is acting against the national interest here.